Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is Claes Peyron. I'm the CEO of the Employer Branding Academy, and very welcome everybody to this webinar called Recruitment KPIs. We have the pleasure of having Reimer Olesen from OnTame with us, and he will very shortly take over from me. But before we get going with the main topic of this webinar, let me just give you a little flavor of Employer Branding Academy. Before starting, I would just like to say how happy I am that so many people have shown interest in this. We have a record interest for this webinar. We're running webinars regularly on different topics related to recruitment marketing, and employer branding, and this is actually the one that has granted the biggest interest. So it clearly indicates that we found a topic that is relevant right now. KPIs is something that very many companies and people working in this industry are looking at right now, how to measure the right things and make sure that we deliver on the most important areas and that we continuously improve in the way we are working. So that's really good, and I think Jens will share a lot of very relevant. I know that Jens will share a lot of very relevant insights with us just shortly. But the Employer Branding Academy, for you joining, is a company offering training within employer branding and recruitment marketing. And just to take 2 minutes of your time to share what we do, we provide unique insights in the way we offer our training. We also offer trainings where you can meet the experts in the field, and it's an approach to training that is very flexible. We use e-learning, but also face-to-face, depending on what you choose. Now, one of the big benefits of joining Employer Branding Academy is also the alumni network, which we found is obviously is growing because we've been in the business for a while, but having access to people in similar roles around the world that you can continuously contact for various issues is a big benefit we have found. What we offer normally is 8 weeks of e-learning and in-person meetings. So this is a format that we've put together that you could call blended learning. For the specific training that we have upcoming right now, which is on recruitment marketing, it's 8 weeks, and it's a kickoff meeting in Stockholm and a certification in Stockholm as well. So it starts with a face-to-face meeting, it ends with a face-to-face meeting, and in between there's an e-learning taking place with webinars and so forth. The other option we have is what we call world-class employer branding, and that's kicking off in April of this year. One of the benefits of doing this as well is that you get a certification. You actually get a diploma that you are a certified employer branding professional or a recruitment marketing professional that you can use in various areas, including your LinkedIn profile. So very sort of shamelessly selling this right now. This is something that we're kicking off on the 16th of February. There's still opportunities for anyone who wants to join. You see the price there on the screen, and just go into Employer Branding Academy to find out more should you be interested. We will follow up as well with information after this webinar, including the free trial that we offer, where we will give you 5 days access to one of the modules in the online platform, which is called Why Employer Branding and How to Do It Right. That gives you a flavor for the reason for doing recruitment marketing and how the whole foundation that is required to do this right in a very effective and a way that links very closely to the business. Good. Let me then introduce Jens Reimer Olesen, who's Danish, coming from the company OnTame.io. Jens will have to tell us what .io really means. I actually haven't asked the question. Jens, as it says, is a seasoned entrepreneur within online recruitment. And OnTame is backed by former LinkedIn executives, and it's the first company in the world to launch a platform that automatically handles all media buying and analytics on behalf of their customers. So if there's anyone that has an insight in how to capture the right recruitment KPIs and what to focus on and how to do this in a smart way, it should be Jens. And that's why we have invited him today. Good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to mute myself and unmute James and then let him share his slides instead. So let me just make sure we have Jens on the line. Hello, Jens.
Hello, hello.
Very good. I'm just going to make you a presenter now, and we should see your screen popping up here very soon. And what we're going to do while Jens' screen will be visible here, I'm just going to let you know that you have an opportunity to ask questions using the little tool on your screen. Towards the end of this session, we will have 5-10 minutes for questions that Jens can answer, and maybe I can answer some questions as well. I will monitor that, so just keep entering questions into the question tab, and then we'll take it from there. We are also recording this webinar for your information. We will send out a recorded version afterwards, so you can see the slides again and listen to our beautiful voices. Good. Well, Jens, please take it away. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Klaus. Thanks a lot. And yeah, thank you for having me here. I've been really looking forward to this because it's one of my big passions to talk about recruitment, and especially from a data perspective. So that's perfect. I've been looking forward to this. So what we're going to do today, and I promise you, I'm going to do a brief introduction of what we're all about, and I'm going to do it shortly. I promise you that. Then we're going to look a bit into how we see the media landscape is changing, and changing more rapidly than what I've seen before, and how that relates to recruitment marketing and employer branding in general. And then most importantly, I think it is to come up with sort of an idea or suggestion how to build a powerful but yet simple recruitment framework based on data that you can apply in your organizations. So that's what we're going to go through today. A bit of background on why we started this. So we started another company 6 years ago, actually called Graduate, which you see here in the screen as well. And one of the large obstacles we saw when dealing with large employers was that HR and recruitment is actually like the department inside the big organization that has the most data and has the most data stored. So you have your ATS systems where you have like plenty of data compiled from a lot of entries and from a lot of applicants. And at the same time, you're actually inside your web page. You're often the organization within the organization that has the most data from website visitors, which is kind of crazy because you normally don't correlate that with recruitment. So you have a lot of data on two sides, and we just experienced that a lot of what we saw was guesswork. So we were still guessing what worked, and we didn't actually know, grounded in data, what actually worked. And so we basically decided to do some things with some of the first clients we worked with. So normally clients we work with are multinationals, big employers, plus 1,000 employees. And what we do is basically stitching together two types of data. So we're taking data from your website, and that basically looks at who is entering your website and where they're coming from. So that could be from LinkedIn, that could be from Indeed, from Monster, from whatever site, Facebook as well. And then we are coupling that together with data from your recruitment system, i.e. your ATS system. And that basically allows us to show the entire journey from first time someone sees your job ad till the ultimate hire. And that's kind of a big value add compared to a lot of the things that are working in your ATS now. So it's basically a way to store all recruitment KPIs in one place. Now with a lot of focus on data legislation in the EU, it's fully compliant, so there's no personal data that we fetch back. We're only seeing where people are actually placed in your recruiting funnel. And to make it simple to get online, we build a model that actually scales so you can get online in 30 minutes. The interesting part is, however, what should we do with all this analytics? Because I think one of the biggest flaws about all this buzz around data that we have nowadays, that big data is eating the world, and robots are taking over everything. We have to be really concrete on what we use the data for. So having data is not necessarily a goal, it's a mean to reaching something better and doing something more efficiently. And what we're seeing is, alongside the changing media landscape, that the way we do recruitment marketing is getting more and more grounded in data. So let me try to give you an example of how we see this. Basically, we still see your point of departure as a job ad. So that's where you specify the kind of people you need to have in your organization, and you do that accordingly with your hiring manager, and make sure that everything is nice and tidy and describes the role. Where we come in then is we analyze this job. So based on text semantics, we look for positions that look similar to this position. So that could be a previous position that has been uploaded inside your company, but more realistically, it's perhaps a position that's been uploaded to one of our other companies. So we would look at those and say, these are kind of similar. And as a result, if they're similar, then we could expect a similar result of the advertising we'll be doing. And then we're advertising it to an ad network that we'll build. So that could be, it goes on Facebook, it goes on Indeed, it goes on your favorite job board. To us, it really doesn't matter, because we believe that the landscape is changing from buying media sources to buying target group of people across the World Wide Web. So instead of doing your yearly deal with your job board, or doing your deal with your media agencies where they say, now I'm going to phone down the local newspaper and buy some space in there, it's not going to work out that way anymore. And then they're applying either in our application form or in the recruitment system. And what that basically allows you to do is have a closed circuit where you use data continuously to perform better recruitment marketing. And where all this is ending up, and now I said the word robots, but it's basically ending up the same place as regular marketing. So regular marketing at the moment now, if you go to your marketing department and you ask them, how do we actually buy your banners and how do we get traffic? Then they would say, if they're up to the numbers, around 60 to 70% of all ads in regular marketing is being bought programmatically. And programmatically basically means that you have a robot or you have a computer program that is basically bidding on your behalf of the target group that you would like to engage with. And what this means is it's more efficient and it's more tailored to the desired message you want to achieve. And the funny thing is that this is early days now within job ads, but the market is growing rapidly. So it's grown from, I think it was 10 to 15 million US dollars a couple of years ago to now being 3-digit market size in the US. And our projections alongside some of the peers we see in our industry is that within 3 to 4 years, it's going to be half of the market being bought through programmatic. And this basically means, as I said earlier, right audience at the right time at the right price. And the reasons why we've seen this or the emergence of this is basically how the media landscape has changed. So if you were to find someone 20 years ago, you probably either put it in a local newspaper, or you perhaps put some sort of paper on your office building saying help wanted. So it was local, it was non-digital, and the business model was and still is actually you pay per word, and normally it will take you weeks to get the final version of your ad in the paper. Then in the 90s and everything, we saw the emergence of job boards. So job boards was some of the first successful business models and on marketplaces going online. And everybody know Monster, of course. They now got bought by Randstad, a big recruitment firm. And there's this regional job board or national job board in every country that still has a relevant market position. So that went from being local to perhaps being national. Monster tried to be international by also purchasing other companies. It was digital now, so things were able to progress in a faster pace, and the business model was pay per post. and you could like edit this and go back and forth. It would take perhaps days. It wasn't instant. Then with the emergence of Google and like the Google business model, you also saw that trending into to the recruitment marketing industry, and you saw the emergence of aggregators like Indeed. They are born internationals to a large extent, and they are digital, and the business model turned from a pay-per-post one to a more performance-based one where you started paying per click. And the good thing about this kind of model is you're able to edit your ads within minutes. So we're getting closer to the real-time bidding robot being able to do things on a programmatic basis, because it doesn't make a lot of sense if you have a smart robot that it takes 2 weeks to edit things. Then like the whole idea around it is lost. But this is not the final stage. The stage I think we're entering now, or we've entered the last couple of years within regular marketing, and we're seeing also in recruitment marketing, which I think is 95% the same, is the emerging or the consolidation of all these media platforms into one platform. So that basically means that one has to look across platforms in order to find the best talent, and you have to be able to measure all your efforts here, because the media landscape is changing in a pace more rapidly than we've seen before. And one thing that is certain is that we are going to use fewer platforms, but the platforms we're using more, them more in depth, and they have a greater traction worldwide. So you see a company like Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook, I guess, in this call almost, and they're soon to be 2 billion active users. That is crazy. So you're able to reach 2 billion people just having one account with one company. That is crazy. And you're able to segment it down to almost eye color. Then you have a company like Indeed, worldwide aggregator for jobs. I think it's fairly safe to say that they're competing quite well, both in the US but also in the European markets. So our belief is that we're going to see the same happening in search here. So you're going to have almost a one-stop shop on the search part. And the ones that are being challenged are the national job boards, and the ones that are not able to deliver a promise based on data and real-time things. So what all this is basically demanding is that we have a higher complexity in stuff because we have more possibilities. And what we see is an increased demand for more infrastructure, being able to measure what works and what doesn't work, because the noise is just out there. And then I think why I'm happy that the class asked me to do this small talk is that I think the need for recruitment marketing expertise and what University is doing and like educating you guys in perhaps is one of the most important things going forward. It is to be able to transform recruitment and HR into a digital department as well. That is definitely of big importance. So all these things are changing, data is coming, you've heard that story, yeah, probably numerous times before. I think the most important thing basically to look at is to take a few steps back and then to look at how do we actually measure successful recruiting. So what I try to come up with today is sort of our way of looking at KPIs and what is important and how to measure them. And then you can do it yourself in a lot of ways. You can do it in a spreadsheet, you can perhaps get it out of your ATS, or perhaps you already have some good models that we could learn from as well. But basically come up with a framework, and it should be simple, because if it's not simple, it's not applicable. And it should be something that is automated, because if it's not automated, then it's a tedious task to get it implemented. So this is based on data, and it's quite simple. I hope you feel the same. And yeah, it's about getting to the root of what recruitment is all about. And we have actually we've stolen a bit from sales and marketing, because we see it as basically the same. So where you have sales, it's about getting a customer through a funnel. From first time they hear about your product, that's marketing. They perhaps engage with your product, they get some interest in what you're doing, all the way down to them perhaps coming into your shop or entering your e-commerce store, putting some things in a basket, and hopefully at the end of the day also buying the stuff that you're selling. this could be applied to recruiting as well. So it's about sparking some interest, top of funnel employer brand, getting the interest into your website, perhaps engaging them with nice content videos, and then at some point hooking them to perhaps give them or give an email address, making an application, and from there moving the application in your funnel, in your hiring process, into ultimately a hire. So sales and marketing and recruiting, I see that as 95% the same. Where I see it actually different is that in sales and marketing you would have as many customers as possible. That would be like ideal. That you would like 1,000, you would like 1,000,000 customers, but because at the end of the day that will bring money to your company. So that's the only difference, where in recruitment we have a limited amount of seats that we're actually trying to fill. So even though we had 1,000,000 qualified candidates, if we only had 10 roles, then we couldn't apply them all. So that's the only big obstacle I see in comparing those two. So the way we define a successful recruitment is basically if you're able to find the right candidate as fast as possible at the lowest cost, because then you'll basically fulfill all your demands. And it looks a lot of like the goal with marketing and sales is finding the right customer as fast as possible at the lowest cost. So they are kind of the same. So we often talk about with our customers the holy triangle. It's about optimizing for these three parameters. It's efficiency, so that's about the speed. That's how fast you move people across your funnel, both in terms of your marketing. So if you get an email address on people, how good are you at making sure that this email address converts into perhaps an application, and how fast are you at calling people to the right interviews and so forth. Cost, it says itself, it's about lowering cost both on the direct expenditures, that could be advertising or your IT systems, but also on the indirect expenditures such as your time, which I think is the most important one to optimize for. Then lastly, the quality of the candidate is being measured in some other ways. I'll just come back to that in a bit. So yeah, everybody is always saying that Einstein said every smart thing in the world. So I'm stating that as well. That Einstein once said, successful recruitment is the combination of these three. So quality, efficiency, and cost. Let's try to break it down even further and look at the quality part. So the way we define quality from a recruitment perspective is the quality of a candidate as rated by the recruiter or the hiring manager. So the way we get data back on the quality that we show our customers in our system is the rating that the recruiter or the hiring manager choose to give the candidate after they applied or after the first interview. So that's our quality screen. And I know at the end of the day, the quality of a candidate is actually how well he performs in an organization, presumably half a year or a year later after he's hired. It's just damn difficult to get that in before you hire that candidate. So that's what we call a lagging indicator. You're not able to use that as in your recruitment needs per se. The efficiency part, I touched upon that. It's how long time it takes from you get the go from having to hire someone to signing the candidate. And the cost part is how much did it cost in total cost to recruit the candidate. So you end up with these three, and then you're starting to bake the cake, and then you add it up together. And what you're then ending up with is this kind of world that you would like to strive to measure and improve. So that's the world of recruiting as we're seeing it. So the first part's about the visit career side and applying for a job. That's the employer branding part. That's about making sure that the right message is conveyed with the right employer value proposition, as I know Universum is good at defining, and making sure that they actually do what you would like the candidates to do. So that could be applying for a job, it could be enrolling in your job agent, whatever. And then once they have applied, it's a lot about the internal processes, so moving people further in the funnel, getting them to interview, making sure that it happens in time, and making sure that the offer is relevant and that it's communicated in the right way. But I'll try to go through these 5 to 6 different steps and then combining them with live data from our customers. So you can start thinking of where you perhaps are being placed in this funnel. So let's look at some of these KPIs. It's data based on 8.5 million visitors. It's around 1 million applications and 17,000 hires. So that's around 2 years of data. So I would say the validity of these numbers are quite high. I have to say, for the ones being in big international environment, this is 80% Northern European data, but we have also compared this to US data from some of our colleagues over there, and it stems within 3 to 4% of what they see in the US as well. So I hope this can be used both in US but also perhaps in Asia. Let's dive into this. The first metric that we look at is the applicant conversion. So that is basically seeing how many of the great candidates and people that you get into your career site and who are viewing your job ads are actually applying for a job. Because it says something about two things. It says something about how well you are in communicating the message on relevant media platforms, and it says something about, does this message on your own website correspond with what has been communicated. So let me give you an example of a way that you could have a really bad conversion rate. If I'm advertising for a Ferrari, you'll get a Ferrari when you start this job, and if I'm then landing at in this landing page and I'm seeing an old, let's just say Volvo, because this is funny. When I'm Danish, I'm allowed to tease the Swedish. Let's say you're getting an old Volvo. Then I'm being promised something which I cannot deliver upon. And I think that's what we see for some of the ones we're working with, and in regular marketing as well, that the promise in the ad is not corresponding to what is actually live in the conversion page. Diving into some of the numbers. So this is the ratio of visitors to your career site who apply for a job. The average is 11%. So 11% of people will actually visit your career site and read a job ad on your website will apply for a job. And if you compare this, then we see almost 50% divergence in both ways. So the best ones, they have up to 14% conversion rates, and the worst one 7%. And then an obvious question is, how can you improve this number? I think two ways are really relevant to look at. The first thing is of course to look at how you are communicating your message in terms of employer brand and how it corresponds to the website, as previously mentioned. But more importantly, it is really to think of mobile as the key to conversion rates. So more than 50% of the traffic that is on your site is from mobile. And you really have to think of the mobile as the first device, not the desktop. So the mobile user experience is key to improving this number. I can promise you that. We haven't worked with a customer on mobile where it didn't improve it quite dramatically. And then lastly, it is to look at your paid traffic channels as well, because if you have traffic channels that are not converting, then it's either because you are promoting something wrong, or perhaps because the audience of the traffic channels is not corresponding with the audience that you would like to see. So that's the first one, the application conversion. That's the same as me making a purchase on my e-commerce shop. That's an important one. The next one to look at is how many of the applicants that you actually get to the application stage actually get through to an interview. And our average customer has 13% of these, so it's like 1 out of 8-ish. So 1 out of 8 will actually join an interview. And what we see is that the better you align your interest between the hiring manager and the recruiter, the higher the ratio you will have. Because then the job ads will be way more optimized for the actual candidate that is looking to fill the role, and that will mean that you'll have a higher percentage of people that are actually fitting also in the eyes of the hiring manager. So segmentation and alignment between hiring manager and recruiter is where we see this is being improved. And it goes again back to the example about promising what is actually being delivered and making sure that this is aligned. The next one is looking at the interview to offer ratio, and that's an interesting ratio as well, because then you have used a lot of time. So an important thing to say before this is, the longer you get into the funnel, So the closer you move to the hiring part, the more important it is to make sure that you're fully optimized, because your investment time-wise and money-wise, it will only grow as you move into the funnel. So the interview to offer ratio is interesting, of course. So that's the amount of candidates who you've interviewed who gets an offer. So it's 16% that we see the average. So that's a bit more than 1 out of, or a bit less than 1 out of 8. So that means you need to have around 7 to 8 interviews to actually fill, or to being able to make an offer. And where we see cutting time down on this is doing bulk interviews if possible. And then it's about making sure that the internal candidate evaluation is being performed timely. And that's also something that is really, I think we don't have the numbers on it, but at the end of the day, the candidate experience in your hiring process is something that is highly effective on your employer brand as well. So timely candidate feedback and communication is a key to this, I think. The next one, which is perhaps one of my favorite ratios, because it's the most overlooked, I think, when we are dealing with some of our customers, is the offer accepted ratio. And that's basically how many of the people that you give a contract is actually accepting your promise to join the company. And the numbers here are quite high, and I'm happy to see that they are high, of course. But there is actually a big difference. So you see the worst, now I call them the worst, but the not so well performing, they will have 3 out of 4 will actually join when seeing an offer. But the best, they will have 96% joining. And this is a time where you've invested so much time, effort, and money on recruiting this candidate. So improving this one from just being average to being best performing, and if you're recruiting on a scale that has a magnitude, then that is of big importance in moving stuff in the right way in the funnel. And I think a lot of work can be done in aligning what is really important in the contract. So making sure that it's described thoroughly what the salaries are, what all these different regulations if you're recruiting across countries, and making sure that all candidate questions and requirements in terms of feedback are also taken at the interview stage. And then an indicator that the time is decaying things is that we see that the longer time it takes for someone to accept the offer, the higher the likelihood of him turning down. So it's speed is an important parameter in this one as well. So now we've looked at the applicant conversion, 11%. So like rule of thumb, 1 out of 10 will apply for a job. Then rule of thumb of these applications, then 1 out of 8 will get to an interview. Again, 1 out of 8 will get an offer. And then let's just say 9 out of 10 they will actually accept it. So that's the in-between ratios of this funnel. If we then look at your full funnel, okay, so how many people do you need to your corporate career site to make a hire? The average is around 500 unique visits. So 500 unique visitors need to come to your website in order to hire someone. And here you see quite a big difference in numbers. You see that the best ones, they only need 250, and the not so well performing, they need 2,000. And if, let's just say that half of these visits are based on your paid advertising, then there's a big difference between 1,000 visits and 125 visits in your marketing spend. Let's say an average click to your website will cost you 10 kroner. Then there's a big difference between using 10,000 and a big difference between using 1,250. So this is a funny ratio, and again, something you could have in your back of your mind that's saying, if I'm average, then I need around 500 people to come past my shop in order to hire someone. And then how to improve this number? This number is basically just the result of everything you do in between. So in order to improve this, you need to improve on the different steps in the funnel. And it might be that you're really good at converting from someone who visits your website into a job, but the quality is so low that nobody gets to an interview. And when they're at the interview, you might be really good at closing them and getting them the offer. So it's really, it ranges a lot from company to company where the funnel leakages are. And you need to look at the different steps in order to conclude things. So this is basically just an indicator that can say that you perhaps need to look at something if it's broken. Then the last one. We did a survey, and I know LinkedIn does that as well. And we asked what are the most important KPI for your organization. And it is still the time to hire part. So the lead time. How long time does it take for me to hire someone? And it also shows something about how quickly can you scale an organization, and how easily can I budget with my recruiting. And what we see is from the go, i.e. you decide to make the job ad to a contract has been signed, we see that 42 days is the average lead time. And this is an interesting KPI to look at, because this you can actually tie together with concrete business value, and I'll come with an example in just a minute. So we see the best ones are doing it in 33 days, and the worst one, again, the not so well performing, are in 69 days. A big disclaimer to all this is, of course, that this ranges a lot from industry to industry and country to country. Because if you're looking to fill blue collar, let's just say customer service jobs, and it's bulk recruitments, then you're able to do a faster turnaround of your time to hire. Whereas if you're looking for highly qualified PhDs in math and physics, you'll probably have a higher lead time. So what is relevant in our opinion is looking at your peers in your market. So the ones who are recruiting the same kind of persons as you are, how are you comparing to those? But an average of 42 days from go to contract sign. And again, if you want to improve this, it's not enough just to look at the overall metric. It is to look at how long time does it take for me to get people and candidates through these steps. Okay, so now imagine that you have all this nice data, and you need to go to your CFO and say, HR is actually moving something, and we would like to show you some numbers. Then I have the slide. So let's try to put it all together and come up with something that we can tie together to concrete business value. So I found a McKinsey study. It's 5 years old, 6 years old, so I hope it still works. But they calculated that the average profit per day per an employee, and this is US numbers, that was the only thing I could find, is around 200 euro. So that means every day someone goes to their job, they will bring in 200 euro in net profits for this employer. Okay. And in my previous slide, I stated that the difference between the best and the worst in my time to hire was 36 days. So if I'm just calculating that 36 days times 200, that's 7,200 euro I could actually improve. If I could go from being the worst to being the best, I could improve my company's profits by 7,200 euro per recruitment. So imagine you're doing 100 recruitments a year. That's 720,000 euro. But imagine you're doing 1,000 recruitments a year. Then you land at plus 7,000 euro just in increased profits on behalf of you optimizing your recruitment fund. And I think this is where we need to end up in recruiting as well, because this is how sales work. This is how marketing work. They're able to come with numbers, and they're able to justify their decisions based on numbers. And as a result of this, they're getting things allocated, and they're getting a voice all the way up to the C-level. And I think this is what is needed both in recruitment marketing, but also more in the recruitment operational part. It is that we're able to show what we're doing and what we have done based on numbers. So this is me calculating. It's kind of a fictive example, but I think it corresponds quite well with reality. This is it from me today. So thanks a lot, everybody, for hearing me talk, and thanks a lot, Universal, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jens, for this brilliant presentation. I think that was perfect. Not only did you leave us with lots of great insights, you were to the point and on time as well, which we always appreciate. So we have another 5 minutes to look at some questions that have come in from the audience. I have some questions myself as well, but let's take some very immediate ones that link back to the time to hire that you just talked about. Did you look at calendar days or working days when you used those examples?
It's a working days.
Working days. Okay. Good.
Working days. Yes.
Very good. There's a couple of questions from Petra de Bruxelles here. I work in a not-for-profit organization. What other than the cost savings could we use to convince management, do you think?
I think the cost savings are, and that's the cost saving part is often the difficult one, because the cost saving, you can come down to a threshold where you cannot cost save anymore. So I think it's about the last slide actually, about showing the value of them having better people coming in faster than they would normally have had before.
Yeah.
So that it's about finding the right people faster and getting them to add value to the company faster than you would have normally expected. And in a non-profit, it can be more difficult to calculate what is a profit, whereas the McKinsey, it's about money and profit. But I think in a non-profit, you would have some KPIs that are also, you're also able to take into this equation about perhaps improving your time to hire with 10 days by just looking at your processes. That must bring some sort of value in the organization.
Regardless if you're a for-profit or or not for-profit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
I agree with that.
If you can have someone in an emergency area 10 days earlier than you would have had otherwise, then I think that's a lot of profit. Perhaps not money-wise, but yeah, more overall.
Yeah, I agree. Good. There are a couple of questions on whether we will receiving this deck, and I think you've agreed to that, Jens, right? We can send it to them, right?
Sure.
Very good. Here's a question from Caroline Manchopi about the full funnel efficiency. How to get these results if you have to take into consideration hiring volume. Companies which have a higher volume will not have a good score. And if hiring freeze, no hire, although the strategy was good. Do you get that question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because you might be really good at doing good recruitment marketing, but if management decides that you're not allowed to hire anyone, then you will have a really high ratio of things. And I think that's why the ones about the full funnel efficiency and the time to hire, those should be your overall indicators of like your heartbeat. And if your heartbeat is wrong, then you need to take a look at inside the body what works and what doesn't work. And it might be that your recruitment marketing is working really well and your employer branding is working really well, but it's the internal processes that for some reason is flawed. It might be the other way around as well, that the marketing and the employer branding part is not working, but you have a really good process. So once you get good applications in, you're actually really be able to turn them around quite fast and making sure that they end up in the right categories. So yeah, having a hiring freeze, you need to look at the parameters that are relevant for you in this situation, and it might be some other than what you've had if everything was on full throttle.
Very good. Here's another question from Carmen Sass. Which KPI do you think is the hardest to calculate?
I think the hardest to calculate is still the quality parameter, because the quality parameter is of course still subjective. So we've tried to do it quite simple. So the way we get data back is a recruitable rate the application on a scale from 1 to 3. So 1 being a good candidate, 2 an average, and 3 someone you wouldn't hire. And I still see the quality part is still the most difficult one. But a funny thing is we're able to correlate the quality to hires. So we made a survey, we made a study, where we saw all the hires that have been made in our platform. How many of those were rated 1 candidates, how many were rated 2, and how many were rated 3. And 80% of all the hires, they were 1 candidates. So 80% of those. But 80% of all the applications, they were 3 candidates. So and that's always the point that we're discussing with customers, that we have too little of the ones that we actually would like and too many of the ones that we're not able to hire. And that's the whole optimization thing around this that one needs to consider.
Yeah, the quality aspect goes further, I guess. I mean, the company has to take a responsibility in following up, 1 year down the road to see was this in fact a person that performed. So you cannot just judge it by the sort of the first instance, but you have to give it some time, right, to get the right view on quality.
Exactly.
Couple of more questions, and then we will end this webinar. This is from Anne-Marie Olsen. When looking at the recruiting efforts and HR integration, how important is the training of an experience level of the recruiting managers in your mind?
I think that's it's a really good question. I think just as you see like data emerging into the recruitment sphere and HR in general, you would also need to start educating colleagues and yourself within the usage of data and numbers. So I think it's actually one of the biggest obstacles in this getting applied all the way down to the organization. It is that we haven't been used to looking at this within recruitment before. The good thing is that going back to what also was in my slides, that 90% or 95% is knowledge that is already out there if you just look at marketing. So looking at how a marketing funnel is constructed and look at how the different steps in a marketing funnel actually works, that will 90% correspond to what we see working in recruitment. But I totally agree that one of the most critical factors for making sure that this works is that you understand the premises and you're also able to apply it on an operational level, because you might have a lot of good data and a lot of good data points, but if you don't understand it or if you don't feel like applying it in the organization, it is useless. So I think education is highly vital within this.
Is it, final question then, from Rushi Bhatia, is it right to measure attrition within 90 days as one of the key KPIs for recruitment? If high attrition, then right candidates not getting into the system.
Yeah, good question. I think that depends on your organization. Yeah, it is a KPI we see from time to time. I don't think it's that bad. We see it from time to time.
Depends on country, I guess. In certain countries, there's
I think so.
There's massive changes very rapidly, and people are not very loyal. Whereas in some countries we're more blessed when it comes to this. We have more questions, but we do not have time, unfortunately. And when we send out today or tomorrow, we will send out a recording of this webinar along with Jens's slides. We will also then obviously offer Jens's email if you have further questions, and including the information on how to sign up for recruitment marketing that I introduced in the beginning. But for now, we're gonna end the webinar and let you go on with your days or evenings or mornings. And we'd like both Jens and I to thank everybody for joining. It was a really great interest, and we would like to thank you for your attention, and thank you, Jens, for a very good presentation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody, and take care.